Would you like to see what I made with my last fabric from my Fabric Wheel of Fate? If the answer is yes, stay tuned. If you're new to my channel, my name is Cynthia and you're watching Mountain Accent Sewing. And yes, it's been a while since I've been on here. I think at least 4 or 5 weeks, maybe longer. I did not sew anything during the month of June, or I may have started this project in June. I can't remember if it was May or June, but I finished it on 4th of July. It was a long weekend for me. I did get Friday off, and so I decided that since I was home, I would tackle this project and get it done. If you watched my last video, you know that I have kind of lost my sojo. I've not been wanting to sew anything really, and I've been busy with family and life and enjoying nature. And I'll share a few little clips from some of my outdoor adventures at the end of this video, but it's from various days. But today we are here to talk about Fabric Wheel of Fate. Now, I chose 6 fabrics to go on my wheel. This is the wheel, and we started off, it was 6 fabrics, and today we're talking about this final fabric here. I don't recall exactly where I purchased this fabric. I will link it in below. It may be in my first video. I meant to check, but I know that it either came from Cali Fabrics or Stylemaker Fabrics or the Sewing Studio. And so I did purchase this lightweight cotton a few years ago, and it's just been lingering in my stash. The great thing about the Fabric Wheel of Fate is that you can choose any fabrics you want. I decided to choose a combination of fabrics that have been lingering in my stash and some precious fabrics that I just was a little scared to cut into because I knew I had a small amount that I just wanted to get sewn up. And this cotton is one of the last fabrics that I sewed. It was also one of the larger pieces of fabric that I had, so I did have enough for a dress. What did I make? Let's talk about the pattern. Now I'll insert a picture of the pattern here, but it is one of my favorite pattern companies, Atelier Jupe, and it is the Ava dress. I purchased this as a PDF, but it does come in EU sizes 34 to 52, so a pretty decent size range. Now I fall in the mid to upper size bracket, and so I looked at my body measurements and the finished garment measurements for about 3 different sizes because I kind of fell in between those sizes. And then based on their description of this dress and looking at the line drawings, which I'll include those here also, it has a loose fit, and it says, so if you're between sizes, choose the size you're closest to. I decided to size down, and I think I went down 2 sizes, and I'm very happy with the way the dress fits. So for this pattern, you need your fabric, thread, some iron-on interfacing, and 9 buttons, and it recommends 12mm buttons. And fabric recommendations for this pattern for my size was about 2.6 meters of fabric. I had close to 2.5 meters, maybe slightly under that. So I did have to do a little bit of adjustments with my patterns, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, what adjustments that I made and changes that I made. Now, if you are familiar with Atelier Jupe, or if you're not familiar with, they have this wonderful little chart here that shows all the pattern pieces, and it also tells you how much your seam allowance is for each pattern piece. For instance, like at the neck, the collar, has 1 centimeter seam around the edges of it, but like most of the pieces, the front, the back, it has a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance, which equivalates to about a 5/8 inch seam allowance. And the Atelier Jupe patterns are published in 3 different languages, and I have printed the English instructions. Let's talk about what pattern pieces that I added and what I left off. The Atelier Jupe pattern calls for a double yoke on the back, but only a single layer on the front, and I wanted to double that because I wanted, if it flapped open, that you would be able to see fabric and not the wrong side of the fabric. And so I did a double yoke, and then I treated that piece as a single layer when I attached it at the shoulder seams, and then I did the burrito method when I attached the back yoke facing. That is a mouthful. felt like a little tongue twister there. And so I had to add those bodice pieces in, and then still with my fabric limitations, I end up cutting the belt in segments. So normally it would have 2 pieces cut on the fold, and I cut 4 pieces, and then I sewed them all together. So I did add a little extra, so I'd have the extra seam allowance, and the belt is intended to be an extra long belt, and we'll talk about that again in a moment. And so I did not have enough fabric to cut out pockets. Even though the pockets weren't that big, I did not have any scraps that were large enough to cut out the pockets. So let me just grab my dress and we'll talk a little bit more about it. This is a beautiful fabric, and one of the reasons I picked this particular pattern for this fabric, which I think is a perfect match, is it reminded me of the fabric that they used on their cover. It's very similar in the way the splotches of color just pop and create this look. And I've added in a label here that says look for glimmers, and then I've added these cute butterfly buttons. Here is my double yoke. See, it's nice that it's got this beautiful fabric instead of the wrong side. And because of adding that front yoke piece, that meant also that I had to sew my pattern, or do the steps out of order. So they do have great instructions. So if you follow their pattern as it's written, it's very well written instructions, but I jumped around because they have you creating your button placket at a step prior to sewing your shoulder seams. And I knew I wanted to enclose that double yoke here, so I did my shoulder seams first so that my yoke pieces were all enclosed, did my burrito method, and then the button placket is it's all one piece of fabric. It's not a separate button placket, and you're interfacing a strip down with leaving a little bit at the edge that you iron under before you fold it over to create a very neat edge on the inside. And I do like the way they had it marked at the top so you could see exactly where to fold it. It had the little markings, so I just clipped it so I knew where to fold, top and the bottom. And so that went very neatly. And then that also meant that my inside yoke piece was enclosed, but I didn't want a lot of extra bulk there. So I actually made this yoke piece, I trimmed it so that it was not as wide this way, so that it was just barely caught under my button placket when I folded it over without adding bulk into the placket itself. And I think that worked out great. So you have this, it's hard to see, but you have a nice gathers across through here. This fabric is so busy that it is really hard to see. And then I had created this beautiful collar. It's a normal collar with your collar stand and the collar. And with this being a cotton, I didn't have any trouble sewing that. And then the other difference that I made is on the bottom, and looks like I need to trim some loose threads. I did a mitered corner. They did not have that in the instructions. And so before I stitched my button placket down, I went ahead and ironed up where my hem should be and did the mitered corner. Then I sewed that down, and I did that all before I even sewed the side seams, and then I hemmed it. And then I put on this beautiful collar cuff. This is not a collar cuff. This is a sleeve trim, which looks like a sleeve cuff. And it's nice and wide. I like the width of it. It looks like, I didn't measure it, but it looks like it's probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches, might be 2. And so that is all neatly finished on the inside. Now it does tell you to stitch in the ditch for this piece here. And I'm not always very good at stitching in the ditch and catching the inside fabric. And so I decided that I would do it edge stitch around near this seam, and so that I would be sure to catch my inside piece, and it looks just as nice on the inside as it does on the outside. The back yoke also has some gathers across through here, and it's just one solid back yoke piece. And I see I have more loose threads. And it is a little wrinkled because I did wear it yesterday. We've had some very hot weather the past few days. It's felt great inside in air conditioning, or I shouldn't say great because I've even sweated some in air conditioning because we don't turn our air conditioning up too high or because it would run constantly. But it's been pretty miserable outside and very humid. And so this felt great. Now I am going to insert pictures that you can wear this dress loose. You can wear it with the tie wrapped around from the front and then wrap back around to the front and tied, or from the back, wrap it around and tie in the back. And I tested it all 3 ways, and I think it looks great every way that I wear it. I'm really impressed with how well this dress fits and how it looks. It was a fairly simple construction. If you have, sewn a collar or buttons, I'd still say it's like maybe a confident beginner or intermediate pattern. It's doable. And I started this, like I said, back weeks ago, and then I just hadn't felt like sewing, and I was busy with life and just laid it aside. But I was able to whip up the remaining part of it just a few hours, and I mean, it was like I was doing other stuff, and then I'd come and sew a little bit and go get a snack, sew a little bit. So it wasn't like I was just sitting there at the machine. So it's still not that involved of a make. You can make it in a day. And so let me know what you think of my last pattern. I think I chose some great patterns for this fabric wheel of fate. And I'm so thankful that I have 6 fabrics out of my stash. And I do have a couple of favorites out of all those makes, and I may talk about those in a future video, but I don't know when that'll be. I'm still not really in the mood to sew. I do have some projects that I want to work on, but they're not garments. So I may talk about those, or there may be a little bit of a lull for the rest of the summer, taking kind of a hiatus and enjoying life while we have the nice weather, and spend, like I said, spend time with family and outdoors as much as I can. So I will see you in my next video, and I'm going to share some footage from the outdoors, and I hope you are having a great summer wherever you're at. Let me know if you are getting outside, spending time with family, or if you're sewing, what you're up to, and have a wonderful day.